In today's video, we're going to look at the hottest transfers in and out of FPL right now for game week 3. So let's jump straight in to another Fantasy Premier League video. Just before we get stuck into the first hot transfer, I want to give you guys at home a huge thank you. I hit my subscriber goal of 250 subscribers. It was a subscriber goal I had for the end of the season, but we've hit it before game week 3 has even started. So we've got a new one that you can see above my head right now, 500 subs. So if you aren't subscribed to the FPL Mugs YouTube channel, please consider dropping a sub. But let's talk about Noni Madueke, the hat-trick hero of Chelsea at 6.5 million and 6.6 ownership. This player has got almost 600,000 managers transferring him in to their FPL teams, which is honestly crazy numbers. And I really didn't expect, obviously I did expect people to bring Madueke in, but 600,000 managers almost brought him in, which I just think is incredible. Obviously, you can see the data and the fixtures on the screen there to kind of give you a visual aspect of, you know, what kind of player we're dealing with here. And I kind of want to speak about the potential rotation of Chelsea more than anything here, because Chelsea have so many options in this front line now that I feel as though minutes are going to be shared about quite a lot. I mean, you've had an amazing performance from Madueke there, so I can really expect him to start the next fixture of course, Palace at home, and maybe Bournemouth away. Maybe he's earned his place in that respect as well. But we've seen Maresca kind of treat MUDEKE in a certain way that I wouldn't expect Madueke to get a different kind of treatment. And let me kind of explain my thought about that, because Maresca has said about MUDEKE, obviously, the quality kind of is there, but the decision-making isn't, and that was a really big problem for Maresca, and that's why MUDEKE has been getting subbed quite early. And maybe if Madueke sort of dries up, my kind of only worry is that Maresca treats him in the same way he has treated MUDEKE and kind of plays somebody else on that right-hand side. But I do believe Madueke's minutes, at least for the next few weeks, will be pretty solid going forward. But yeah, 600,000 managers bringing Madueke in, which makes him the hottest transfer in FPL right now for game week 3. Now, moving on to someone who's the most transferred out player in FPL right now, Alexander ISAK. 500,000 managers have taken ISAK out of their sides to get somebody else in. And for me, that is quite a surprising number. I really didn't expect it to be too high. I understand a lot of people have wildcarded, and on a wildcard, it makes more sense to get rid of someone like ISAK, especially with Watkins coming up with an amazing fixture run in the next couple of game weeks. But when you look at ISAK's fixtures as well, they actually aren't too bad. Yeah, I suppose you've got City there, but it's a home fixture, so it's not too awful. But you've got Spurs at home, which I think was a great fixture for Newcastle. It was either away or home, where ISAK put Van de Ven on his back, and he kind of did like a handstand. Just the way ISAK moved in and out really threw Van de Ven off, and it was quite funny to see. But yeah, those types of fixtures actually don't look bad for ISAK at all. And of course, a penalty taker for Newcastle, I think he's a good option, to be honest with you. But I really do understand, you know, why people are transferring him out when you kind of look at the data here. You know, there's not a lot really happening for ISAK at the moment in terms of points coming in. You know, there's sort of only been 1 assist, so yeah, it's not too great for ISAK in terms of points coming in. But for the next few weeks, I actually really don't mind ISAK if you really want to put transfers elsewhere in your team. So yeah, ISAK, 500,000 transfers out. The next hottest transfer in FPL right now is Emile Smith-Rowe, with 575,000 managers bringing this guy into their FPL teams. And I think it's with good reason. He has been playing pretty well in the last few weeks, and he's got a good fixture run coming up. Now, I've personally placed him into my wildcard team for game week 3, especially with that Ipswich away from home fixture. I do think Ipswich will give them a good game because, you know, it's a home fixture for Ipswich, and I expect them all the way through the season to be getting behind their team to try and get as many points as they can for Premier League survival. But this season, I can see Emile Smith-Rowe being a real asset for Fulham and being a driving force forward like we've seen in the last 2 weeks. I'm personally super excited to own him, and I think with 22% ownership, I really didn't expect that. I thought, obviously before the season, he wasn't going to be used at all in FPL, sticking at Arsenal, but making that transfer to Fulham has been such a positive move for his career, and hopefully his fitness can remain and get even better as we go through the next few weeks in FPL. Now, another player I'm surprised to have on this list is Erebici Eze. Now, he's got 436,000 people taking him out of their FPL sides right now, which, yeah, is a bit of a shock to me. But when you kind of look at it, he's not got many points at all for those managers. And when a player doesn't get you points, you really do want to move them along for someone else. I mean, his fixtures, when you look at them, aren't too bad. Chelsea away from home, it might be a kind of tricky one, especially with the confidence Chelsea are going to have after that Wolves game. You've got kind of game week 4, 5, 6, and 8, which look actually pretty decent. I suppose maybe Liverpool in 7 is the hardest fixture he's going to have in the next 6 game weeks. But yeah, if you're an Eze owner, I think honestly you're one of the most unlucky managers right now. 27.4% of the player base own Eze, and maybe with the addition of Eddie Nketiah to the Palace side that we just literally found out today, that could maybe tidy things up in the final third for Palace. But yeah, I suppose we'll wait and see. For me personally, on the wild card, I've had Eze in many drafts, so yeah, I would maybe hold on to Eze, but if you're really sick of him, I can understand why you're moving him on to someone else. Now, Danny Welbeck, kicking the season off with 2 goals and an assist for Brighton, has got a lot of attention on FPL and obviously has received a price increase to 5.6 million, with 9.2% of players owning him. Of course, in game week 3 does have a tricky fixture in Arsenal away, but game week 4 and 5, and possibly you could argue game week 6 and 7 and 8 maybe, are okay for Brighton. They're attacking pretty well. I would maybe say that game week 4, 5, and 7 are really the good game weeks for Danny Welbeck in the up-and-coming 6 fixtures he has. Of course, as you can see in the expected goals there, 7.2 expected goals, but we're pulling only data from 2 weeks, so the data isn't going to be as reliable as it will be in a few weeks' time. But really interesting that a lot of managers have brought him in. I would personally go with João Pedro every single day of the week over Danny Welbeck, just because I think Welbeck is much more likely to get subbed early, or even maybe not start games, but with the emergence, of Evan Ferguson being back in training and obviously receiving high praise, I believe, from their manager. So yeah, Danny Welbeck, almost 500,000 managers bringing him in FPL for game week 3. Now, if we're talking about transferred out players, we can't not talk about Christopher NKUNKU, someone who's been transferred out a lot by FPL managers in the last few days. Of course, has received a price drop and has turned into a £6.4 million midfielder. Of course, that might be a good thing for the future, but for now, obviously, some people receiving a price drop on NKUNKU have been forced to keep, or have just took that price drop on the chin and have sold them on. And we will show you a replacement in the next slide of who people have been bringing in for NKUNKU. But I suppose just to quickly talk about NKUNKU, because everyone has spoke about him. The Chelsea front line is so competitive. I just don't know where NKUNKU fits. Maybe on that left-hand side, he could start for the Palace at home fixture, but I do believe Maresca will probably go with a similar side that ended the Wolves game and maybe have Pedro Neto starting on that left-hand side. But I suppose we'll wait and see. It. He could turn into an amazing asset again from game week 3 onwards. He could be an absolute, just waster in people's team, but for me, I've transferred him out personally. I did it before the price drop on a wild card, so I'm safe from it. But what do you guys think? Have you sold NKUNKU, or have you kept a hold of him? What do you expect from him in game week 3? Now, Morgan Rogers is probably one of the more exciting budget options in FPL right now at 5 million and obviously 11.3% ownership. I think around 300,000 people have brought him into their FPL teams, which is really great to see. And obviously 2 90-minute matches under his belt, a great fixture run coming up. He passes the eye test with honestly flying colours. He looks fantastic for Villa. Of course, the data isn't there, but we're only pulling from 2 weeks here, so it's not going to be too much to rely on anyway. But those fixtures coming up look absolutely fantastic for a £5 million midfielder in a Villa team that looks pretty decent when they get going. So yeah, Morgan Rogers for me is a fantastic transfer in for game week 3 onwards. Bruno Fernandes, another player who's been transferred out so much that he's had a price drop. He is 8.4 million on FPL. 15.5% of managers still own Bruno Fernandes. And to be honest, I don't blame them. If they want to keep Bruno Fernandes, it makes sense in my head. And just hear me out for this one. Hear me out. He has been, again, like Eze, so unlucky at the start of the season not to get attack and returns. He's looked really, really good for United. And maybe with some additions in defence that United have got, and of course, some midfielders that they brought in today, maybe Bruno Fernandes could turn into a really good option into the next weeks. You know, the kind of fixtures there aren't amazing, so that makes sense to why people have transferred out Bruno Fernandes. And as well, if your players aren't scoring points, you're going to want to get rid of them. But yeah, I suppose drawing data from 2 weeks isn't reliable in such, but I mean, look, the chances have been there for Bruno Fernandes, but I think he has just been really unlucky. And to be honest, game week 4, Southampton away, I think it's going to be a real great game week for Bruno Fernandes owners. So let me know if you're a Bruno Fernandes owner, how do you feel about the price drop? And to be honest, you have been really unlucky at the start of this Premier League season. As always, to outro the video, I just want to give you at home a big thank you for supporting the FPL Mogues YouTube channel. We've recently just hit our subscriber goal of 250 subscribers, and we have surpassed it by quite a bit more than I expected. So a huge thank you for that. And of course, if you aren't subscribed right now and you have enjoyed today's video, please consider dropping a subscribe. But that is everything for today's video. Thank you so much for watching again, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.